Okay, let's talk about the div tag. The div tag for division defines a division or a section in an HTML document. The div tag is used as a container for HTML elements, which is then styled with CSS or manipulated with JavaScript. So the idea is that we kind of incorporate and create a group of elements that we can then style similarly across the web page. The div tag is easily styled by using the class or ID attribute. Any sort of content can be put inside the div tag, and we'll show some examples. So over here on the left, you have the use of the div tag over here. So we kind of have the body, we begin with the body tag over here. Then we have H1, this is the title. And then here we can see how the browser renders it. The browser renders this big, H1 is the big heading. Now we create a class. And we just, so how do we do that? Well, we just begin the tag, div tag, space class. Class is an attribute of the div tag equals my div. So my div is just a name we made up. Put the name in quotes, my div, and then add whatever content we have. We may have some initial headings, we may have paragraphs, we may have all the stuff here. And then we close the div tag. So the extent of this div tag is just this part right here. Right? This, some text outside of the div element. So over here it's outside of the div element. So how did we get this over here? Well, we got over here because then we had the styling. The styling is very important too. And the style here, this is called the internal style, which we'll talk more about later. There's three kinds. We talked about inline styling. Now this is internal styling or intern style, and then we're talking about external. So in the what the browser will do is that it will search, it will look up the style and says my div. So my div here is reference to this my div here exactly. This is how we connect them to. And then you're telling the browser that this division here, the set of elements, everything within this div class is going to have a border. It's going to be red on the outset. It's going to have a background color that is light blue, and it's going to text align center. So this over here, the styling is what created this this red border here that the browse is then interprets. So notice that we don't need to manipulate it on the main content itself. We can leave it to manipulate it later within the style tag, within the style information. And this is just so efficient. It really helps because if you want to change the style, then you just change this. You don't have to go back and change the content itself. There's also another tag that is kind of very similar to div, which is the section tag. And I use it here because I may use it in another tutorial for this class. So the section element is a structural HTML element used to group together related elements. So it's kind of like a little bit above the div tag. It may include multiple div tags and other elements inside. Each section typically includes one or more heading elements and additional elements presenting related content. So an example over here, you have your HTML document on the left with the HTML being shown itself. We create a section. We just begin starting with the section tag, and then we give a name to the section or an ID. ID equals about. So ID in class is very similar, almost kind of like identical. So they can be used interchangeably, but there are some little bit of differences we can examine more carefully if you're interested. And then, so you create a section. This is the about section. This is the symbol section. So it ends over here. Then you have the about the symbol section and it begins over here. Now, both of these are the same. They look the same, but we could make them different because now we have a section called symbol. We have a section called about. Like in the previous example, we can add style information regarding this section here where ID equals about, and then maybe if we want to make this different than this one. HTML lists. So there's a lot of HTML tags, a lot we need to use HTML for to structure all of the content on the web browser for the web page. One of the big ones is the list. So you may create numbered and bulleted lists with the following tags. OL to structure the ordered list. UL means unordered list, and LI is list element or list item. So what's an example of that? Well, it's right here. You have your title of your web page, and then if you want to show, if you want it to render, this is the rendition, right? Oops, maybe this is better. If you want to render content like this, ordered list with 1, 2, 3, you would write it like this. You got to begin first to begin the OL tag, and then for every item, you need to put the list item around it in the start and end tags, and then at the end, you end your list with OL. So it's a little complicated. It's a little like repeated stuff, but that's necessary for the computer to understand the HTML. Same thing, unordered list, you begin with a UL and you end with a UL, and within it, each item, each element has its own LI tag. You can find all HTML tags and their attributes on the w3school.com website. There's a lot of stuff there, very helpful, easy to use, tutorials and so on. You can also find other information in other websites by searching the web search engine like DuckDuckGo or other search engines of your preference. So that's it for this one, and I'll see you next time.